Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm back on the car for the little man here today. And I've finished out the dash. And I have added a little button over there for his horn. And it looks very similar to a glove box button. And I thought about even taking some black pen striping and going around to kind of make it look like a glove box. I'll open the real Beetle and I'll show you. I think the passenger door is locked. Let me pop in on the other side here. Just so you can see, that's what the real Beetle looks like, and it has those dash pieces, try that I cut down to add to his car. But there's a chrome strip there we could add in. We've probably got enough chrome to add that piece in and make it kind of look like a glove box, but I think it looks pretty good the way it is. Anybody who's a Beetle person gets what I'm trying to do with it. So that's that. I have started working on this upper flooring, and this is kind of a nightmare up here. I'm trying to make it where an adult can ride over here and have a place to put their feet, but I had to cut it in 45.7 pieces just to get it in there. The passenger side I was able to do in one piece. The driver's side I had to go around all that garbage, and so that took a while. It's 4 pieces. I don't really like the look of that, but there's not really much else I can do. So that's what we've got. Now I need to go out, since I've got the body off, I need to go out and figure out how I'm going to do this fender well here. I am not certain how I'm going to do it, if I'm going to English wheel it over, or if I'm just going to come straight up and then make a loop over it. I don't really know what's going to be best for that. But I think I've got this kind of ironed out the way it's going to be. Obviously it's very crude right now. It needs some finishing touches, but I think that'll work for a floor. And then I'm going to make a French cleat on those pieces I turned up. My plan is to kind of make it the floor attached, kind of like a French cleat. So if you'll remember, in the previous videos I turned up that edge there. So that edge will actually get turned. So I can get past you here. My plan is to have this edge turn all the way in. And let me put you on a tripod and I'll show you what I'm going to do. So I don't know if this will make sense to you or not, but if I fold over that piece on the floor and then I take my other little flooring piece and, whoops, and I kind of shoe one and the other like that, it kind of gives a nice finished edge, and I don't have to use any bolts or screws right there, so that I could just attach the flooring that way. So this is kind of my plan for that. That's why I turned that front edge up. And it has to do with the way that I left the pedals. You know, I have to have slot room for those to move. I have to have room for the wheels to tuck in. So it's kind of a mess up here. But once that's painted all black and there's carpet in there, you won't even notice it. So it just needs to be strong enough to put your feet on. So I'm going to run a couple of steel pieces, probably just use that thin angle that narrow angle that I used back there, from here back to the flooring. And I probably will make a little tab that comes down and bolts right there so that we can easily take that out and not have to cut welds if we put the other body on. So that's kind of what's slowing us down a little bit too, is I got to think about that. So I don't want to mess up anything and make anything permanent if I can help it. So I'll make a couple arch pieces. It needs just a slight arch because it has to clear the steering knuckle. And so far we do at that angle. So nothing is hitting. I don't hear anything grinding or hitting down there, so we are good. And I think it looks okay. It's as good as I can do with what I have to work with. So I'll keep working on that, and then we'll figure out our fender well. And once we figure that out, we'll be able to pretty much button this thing up. I think I'm about done with it. The hard part is this. I've been dreading this part, so we'll get this knocked out. And then I took the front bumper off so that I can get those clecos in there. And while we have it off, we'll go ahead and polish it up. It's pretty gnarly looking. but it has a good shine to it when you do get it down to the bare metal. So I think we can save that. And I may even see what it looks like if I unbolt these and put the blades so that there's no gap, so it actually does kind of look like a beetle bumper. We'll see what we can do with that. And that one is bent, so we need to fix that. So that's where we are with this project. It's coming along. I'm really happy with how it looks. I did do running boards and made the chrome strips for those. So I spray painted kind of a what do I want to say, undercoating, I guess is what I'm trying to say, on those, and then made the chrome strips that go down the side for those. So we've got that done. So pretty much all I have left is kill switch on the dash. I'm going to do planning to do a real Beetle switch and a real Volkswagen key for that. So let me get busy on basically trying to incorporate that into the seating floor and figure out how we're going to do that with that French cleat idea, and get a piece of cardboard, and we will go out here while this is out, turn it upside down and make our fender well pattern and get that made, and I'll bring you back when I get there. Alright, so I got the floors back in, and I cleat-closed the corners of those. The center is not, but just to kind of figure out where it went, and I trimmed back the one side so that they line up kind of where I initially intended them to line up. And I've left this proud, so it sticks past the frame a little bit. So we'll go ahead and hammer that over, and then I've gone through and marked all the way across where that is going to end. Now, when you roll that metal over, we're obviously going to get, it's going to stand a little proud here on the roll, and this one needs to be bent actually just past my line a little bit, so that when we tuck those in, we can account for that fold. Whatever the thickness is of that metal, it's super thin stuff, so we'll account for doubling that over when we fold it. But I think that looks pretty good. And then I've made a pattern of that inner wheel well with the car upside down. I went out there and made a pattern. So we're going to have to make this kind of go in there and either turn here at the top, or like I said, I'll just make a strip, you know, come from down, up and over. Not sure how I'm going to do that yet. And actually the tire on this side, on the passenger side, tucks in a little more, and I'm going to have to put a stopper there, and here it doesn't come in as far, so we'll have to account for that. So these will be as close as I can get them, but they won't be identical. So let me take that back out. We'll go ahead and fold over this. I'm going to slit right here, and I'm not going to fold that until I figure out what I'm doing with that. Same on this side, I'm not going to fold that side over. So we're only going to fold over to make our cleat where we have metal matching up right here. So let me pop those off of there. We'll make some folds and we'll put it back together, and I'll bring you back and see what we got. Just in case you haven't heard of Cleco before and you haven't ever used them. They're from the airplane industry, and it's C-L-E-K-O is what I have. Cleco Lock. C-L-E-K-O-L-O-C. And how they work is, it comes with a special tool, and you place the Cleco, there's a little lip here, in the pliers, and this is on a spring-loaded little gizmo here, and it pushes this temporary rivet portion out. So it makes it really nice if you're just kind of placing panels in and you don't want to have to keep putting sheet metal screws. Plus, you know, sheet metal screw in and out is eventually going to wear out after you've done it as many times as we're going to do it here. But yeah, you just put it, so you drill a hole, and then you would put this in there, get the camera to focus, and then you let go of it, and it makes it tight. So to take them back out, we're just going to place the pliers under the plunger and pull it out. So it makes it really nice if you're doing temporary placement of panels. So that's what those are. You can get them on Amazon. I bought a bag of I don't know, there's 100 in here. And it wasn't that expensive. It came with the tool. I want to say it was like $45, something like that. So, but I've used the time out of these things for other projects too, not just for car stuff. So, go get yourself a set of those. Come in really handy. Well, that worked out really well the second time I made the floor panels. You know, sometimes the universe gives you the opportunity to try again. And I cut it off twice and it was still too short. So my initial panel was this guy. And you know those lines I marked? Right here? Yeah. That was the line where the start of the fold of the other one is. So I needed to be an inch past that, then fold over. So yeah, I had to make both of those panels again. But this one I had made a mistake in the bend anyway. And this arch was too big. So it gave me the opportunity to build it again and do it the right way. And then I went ahead and brought this one in just a little bit closer since I had the opportunity to practice making it again. And I think we finally got it. And that works out really nice. So I'm perfectly happy with that. And this will all get painted black. The whole thing will be painted at some point. But yeah, I think that's going to work just fine. So, yeah, it took, you know, like I said, 47.5 pieces, but we got it. And where the arch is for the wheel well, I'll actually probably hammer that and kind of roll it under. Make it look a little neater at least. So that is the complete pan section. So yeah, the cool thing about French cleating it over, or whatever you want to call this, it strengthens. I mean, that is just like putting a bead in it, because you've rolled it over on the top one and rolled it over on the bottom one. So it's really strong. So it definitely doesn't want to flex this way. So that's good. But we need to make a piece of metal on each side that goes down, just to give the floor just a little bit of support. But it's really pretty strong. I was pretty shocked at how it came out. And then I just cut a little notch on this one and slid this panel inside that one, and that strengthened that back up too. I'll go ahead and probably put a couple of clicos here just to kind of figure out where we need that to be exactly, but I think that looks about as good as I can do. So I just need to finish up some of the edges are a little gnarly, so to speak. Just need to finish those up and make them a little smoother. Take a grinder to them or whatever I decide to do. So with that, I guess we'll move on to the inner fender well, inner wheel well area. And since I kind of fixed that one, this one isn't as deep. I don't know why. I don't know if it's just because maybe this piece is a little bit not as wide. Maybe I went a little bit wider over there. Yeah, maybe. Hard to tell. But when I bring that wheel in, I gotta put a stop on it still. My stop is gonna hit right there. So no room for error there. But the nubs won't hit and we'll be good. And then over here we have plenty of clearance. That's where it stops on that side. So those two things are good. Now the hard part begins. Well, I got our pattern kind of cut, and I took it out to my cardboard that was laying out there. I don't have a sandbag. I need to make myself one. And I just kind of started kind of getting the turn to go there around the fender well. And I'm just going to wheel that out. So I don't like using painted metal in the wheel, but this was free, so we'll just take it easy on the wheel. I don't like using it painted like this, because what'll happen, it'll actually start to peel the paint off and then it'll get on the wheel. So we'll just keep an eye on it, keep it clean. But we're going to wheel this out, wheel all those dents out, and we should have the curve pretty close there. So this is the part that goes towards towards the front of the car. Just a few passes in the wheel, and you can see we're starting to get pretty good flex. If I can just go just a little bit more like that, I think we've got it. Moves along pretty quick, really. Well, we're not quite there. I've got a little bit more shrinking around the edge to do. I started it right here. Just gotta go the rest of the way around. And I think I probably need to turn it just a little bit more, roll it a little bit more that way to get it to tuck a little bit nicer. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with how that's turning out. It's looking pretty good. What a fun little project. That is a tight spot to get down in there to figure out what you're going to put in there, because I can't get down in there, so I have to keep leaning over the car. Just makes it really hard to work with, but I think we've about got it. Awesome. Well, we kind of got those inner fenders, the wheel wells, done. And while I've kind of got everything drug out, I'm going to go ahead and try and get the license plate cover, the poke nose as they call it, done. And get maybe both taillights kind of rolled or wheeled out. See if we can't make some kind of something work for the back of that. So let me get a couple of pieces of metal out, or sorry, paper out, and we'll try and make ourselves a pattern, and then we'll try and get those made. Well, lights came in for the little car I'm working on for Mr. D, and I think these are going to work. These are, like, they would go in a semi-trailer or the back of a trailer as a reverse light, but I think they're going to work fine. And I've drawn this as a equilateral triangle, that where these holes are in the guard. And so I've put that on the kind of on the body of the car, figured out where my center is. This one I actually wiped off with a Sharpie, but the center is already figured. I thought I was going to maybe move it down a little bit, but the way this bucket is shaped, I have to go by where it is. Because the lens itself wants to sit kind of off a little bit, and I'm trying to keep this bottom line here straight, so those two screws on the bottom will kind of be straight and not be kind of sitting cockeyed on the car. Plus it has this lip on the top. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we want that to sit pretty much dead center if we can get it there. So get those drilled out and we'll get those in and see what those look like. They do have high and low beam too, which is kind of neat. So the reflector won't show. This will cover that. So I think those will look okay. I wish they had a domed lens on it, but we'll make it work. They're L.e.d, which is awesome. They don't use a lot of juice, so won't use a lot of his battery run lights. Well, we got one done. Nothing like drilling holes in a perfectly good body, but it looks different already, just putting a hole in it. Let me get that other one drilled out. We'll see what those look like. Yeah, I don't have those wired to a switch or anything. They're just plugged in. I think those turned out pretty good. Got the little lip that hangs out here, the little hood. Yeah, I think those will work just fine. There's a little bit of a gap on the inside, but that's the closest light we could find without spending like, 60 bucks, 70 bucks. These were only $15. I think they look okay. I think they look good. He'll be happy with it. The cool thing is they have high and low beam, so I'll be able to give him a switch for that. I'll just probably put a three-way switch off 1 and 2, and that'll give him his high and low beam. I think that's high beam. I think. Cool. It now has a soul. kind of fun. I don't know how many times I've had this body off and on the chassis, but it's been a lot. I did get the Pope nose on the back with the license plate. I think that looks pretty legit, so we're going to go with that. Again, this body's just slightly off, so when you measure dead center, you're better off almost eyeballing it. I put the chrome trim strip here to kind of make it look a little bit more like a glove box, and I think that was pretty effective. So I am pretty happy with how it's turning out. Coming along. All this tedious stuff just takes time, though. I do think that strip right there really helped. So glad I put that in there. And yes, it lights up. Of course, it lights up. Ignition for this little Beetle, and I have a couple of these kicking around. They're the original Beetle key Beetle ignitions. And this one's kind of been chewed on a little bit. I don't know if you can see that or not right there, but kind of been chewed on, so I don't know if it got stuck in the dash, if it rusted out, or what happened, but I don't even know what car this came out of. We're going to test it and see what we're getting here, if we're getting anything at all. But if it's any good, need a third hand. Hang on. Yeah, we're good. Before I wasted my time drilling a hole in the dash for that, make sure it worked at least. Now I just have to figure out where in here we're going to put that. So I'm going to leave the engine on, in the on position, the switch that's down in the engine, and then we're going to basically make this a second on switch. So the one back there will always be on, and then this one will be your essentially your kill switch up here at the dash. I probably should just do a push button, but I thought it'd be kind of cool to put a key up here. If it's too big and bulky and we can't make it happen, then I'll just do a push button. Let me see what I can come up with here. I may have to put a piece of metal kind of back in here to come up with something. I gotta come up with a light switch too for him, so this is gonna get complicated real quick up here if we're not too careful. Working on coming up with a tail light, and I think I've about got it. Just gotta clean it up a little bit. I went ahead and rolled the edge here so that when I make the lens, it'll have a place to kind of sit against a piece of a inner tube or something like that. But we're getting close, and I just need to kind of smooth it out. And then I'm gonna try and tack that right there, and then we'll hammer that so it's not so pointed. And I think we're getting pretty close. We got a little bit of a sharp point right here. It's getting pretty close. I'll take you back there and show you what it looks like on the car. I just paper dolled it, to use one of my Uncle Norman's terms, make a paper doll. So once that's together, and we kind of hammer this upper part so it's a little less pointed right there, it goes to a point. Need to fix that, and then down here we'll round it out a little bit, but I think we're getting pretty close to what we need to be. I think that's about right. So I'll keep working on it, keep tweaking it, and we'll get it where it's pretty close. This is a 30-degree angle, and it fits against the body really nice. And I'll put that rubber stuff that I put on the license plate. This paint I was waiting to dry, and now that it's dry I can shove that all the way back. That's the closest color we could get. It's pretty close. This has dust on it, so it looks a little bit white, but it's pretty close. So I think the tail light assembly, get both of those cut out and finish the inner fender well on the driver's side, and we've got all of our metal work done, so that's kind of a good feeling. Oh, I put a light switch. You get a light switch now on the dash. And there's high and low beam, and I didn't put a real, doesn't have a real Beetle switch in there. Just has a on, off switch. So both up and down are on, and then the middle is off. So That should work out pretty good for him, I think. And of course we used a real beetle knob because... Oh, the turn signal switch is in too. We used a real one for that. I had to cut down the little piece that's on the side because it hit the side of the car. But I painted it gray just to be obvious. I may decide I want it black. But I kind of want people to notice that that's the real deal. So... Anyway, I might decide to paint that black, but for right now it's going to stay gray. And we'll continue working on these taillights and get those made. I did make a mold for the turn signal piece, thinking I might actually make a lens that shapes all the way inside instead of like I had it initially. I've been playing around a little bit with some Lexan plexiglass, trying to see what kind of shape I can make. So I have a little bit more of this just scrap left over from the project. Actually, I think that came from a picture frame that I bought. So there's our little, kind of a little mold. So we'll see if we can do something with that and actually make a real lens that goes up into the housing itself and is a little harder than the other one. Playing around with that. Gotta get good for it because I gotta make these taillights. There's that little taillight that I made. And there's a little bit of a gap right there. But when you push down on it, not terrible. I think that'll be okay. And you know, on a real beetle they sit just like that, kind of crooked. One side's higher than the other. So I think that's going to work just fine. And I've smoothed it out around the edge. It needs just a little bit of fine tuning. So we're talking about... You can kind of see where the original bends were, but if you look at it like that, it's pretty smooth. Smooth enough for a go-kart, I think. I'll give it a couple final taps and call it good. And I've just set up a, I just keep a hitch ball and I put it in the vise and then I can beat around that. It works out really well for small little things like this. I have another one that's filed down to get a little different shape in there. There. So we're going to put it about right there. I think that'll work. That finished up, and then get the other one made, and then I'm probably just going to weld them to, and this stuff is super thin, but weld it to a backer plate, and then that will just get attached to the car. So we'll just cut a little piece like that, and our bulb housing and all of that will attach to this piece here. So I think that'll work just fine. Alright, so when you cut it, this is what it looks like when you cut it out, and then it just rolls over. And I actually don't have this one thinned out yet because I did it after I had it made. So it looks pretty good. Now just gotta do it again and make it match. That's the hard part. I think I'm at a good stopping point here for this project right now. I've got to add a piece up here. I just don't want, when a stick or something were to come in, I don't want it to hit him. So I'll put a piece there and close that off. I've got both of the inner fender wells done. I had a little bit too much material up here, so I've cut that off and started to roll that side. This one needs a little bit more work in the wheel. Just kind of turn that over a little bit. I've had to dish out where the brake will go. I know at some point I'm going to be moving all of that and therefore remaking most of those panels just because he's going to grow. But for right now, the brake is going to stop about halfway where that is. So we've got plenty of room to go further if the brake needs a little bit of adjustment. And I'm pretty happy with how that panel is turning out. It needs just a little bit more work in the wheel, but it's going to look just fine. And then I think what we're left down to is lenses and wiring harnesses on our lights. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being here. I am going to sign off until the next one, and I plan to be on Old Pickle next week. So hopefully we can get this thing out of the garage, get going on Old Pickle again. It's finally warm enough for us to be out there and have some fun. So thanks for being here. See you next time.